And for baseball, indeed for American sports, that begins and ends with the men who integrated the major leagues. William Edward White and Fleet Walker. No, not Jackie Robinson. William Edward White and Fleet Walker. This is not to diminish in the least what Jackie Robinson did. His success on the field and off, especially in 1947, not only reshaped American sports, it reshaped America. If he had failed, if he had hit 197 that first year instead of 297, all of the mindless prejudices and cliches of the segregated country we were would have been reinforced. Integration would have been deferred or defeated, and Lord only knows what kind of blighted society might have arisen. But Jackie Robinson did not break the color line. In the winter of 1883-84, the minor league team in Toledo, Ohio, moved intact into the American Association, which was then the lesser rival to the National League. Toledo's starting catcher was an ex-Oberlin and Michigan star named Moses Fleetwood Walker. He was black. On opening day, May 1st, 1884, he broke the color line as we knew it. Toledo started its season on the road in Louisville, Kentucky. That baseball color line as we understood it was broken 19 years and 22 days after the Civil War effectively ended, and it was broken deep in the heart of the old Confederacy. Indeed, the America and the American Association of 1884, in which Fleet Walker and later in the season his brother Welday Walker survived unimaginable hatred and abuse, had 11 other teams besides Toledo and Louisville in it. Among them Richmond, the capital of the Confederate States of America, also Baltimore, which nearly sided with the South, and Washington, a collective mixed message about race, and Cincinnati, then an utterly southern city, and St. Louis. It is amazing that the Walker brothers survived, thrived. Fleet Walker hit .263, well above the league average. Even one of the fiercest racists on that team, his own pitcher, Tony Mullane, said Walker was the best catcher he had ever played with. The Toledo team dropped out of the American Association that winter, but Walker continued to play in the minors, working towards another shot at the big time until 1889. That was when baseball unofficially brought down the color barrier that Jackie Robinson would eventually break through. We celebrate Jackie Robinson, and we all but forget Fleet Walker. He's not even in the Baseball Hall of Fame. Or is there some kind of plaque somewhere saying that he was Major League Baseball's first African-American player? Of course, he wasn't either. That distinction, in fact, belongs to a man who never claimed it, who did everything possible to hide and deny it. In 1879, a man named Joe Start, the first baseman of what was then one of the top NL franchises, the Providence, Rhode Island Grays, broke his finger. There were no 25-man rosters and no farm teams from which to call anybody up. So the 1879 Grays, that's them on the right, they did what many clubs did before 1910 when they needed an extra player. They signed a kid off the local streets, or in this case, off the campus of Brown University in Providence. His name was William Edward White. He was 18. We think they called him Bill, but nobody's certain. And on June 21st, 1879, he stepped across the foul lines at the Messer Street grounds in Providence and broke baseball's color barrier. And nobody really knew it for 125 years. That, and only that, is when irrefutable evidence arose that William White's father was the president of a railroad in Georgia, and his mother was one of the slaves he owned. She herself was of mixed race. William White was evidently light-skinned, Caucasian-featured, and spent his life in the old, now unused, and heartbreaking term, passing. His college thought he was white. His wife thought he was white. His census takers thought he was white. When he died in 1937, the death certificate listed him as white. Deep down, he may have considered himself white, or he may have enthusiastically embraced the opportunity to avoid the hell that was living in America for blacks of the 19th century and for most of the 20th. We don't know. We don't know if he only played that one day in the National League because somebody suspected he was of mixed heritage. It's just as easy to think that he was indeed a one-day emergency replacement. The Grays had 3 days off until their next game, and they rearranged their lineup and just dropped him, as dozens of other teams did to dozens of other 1 or 2 day big leaguers at the time. We do know that there is no evidence that he ever proclaimed himself to be an African American, nor that the team had any idea, nor that he ever acknowledged his own accomplishment. And that fact, that White clearly did not self-identify as black, leads many to the interpretation that White was thus not the first African American in baseball, because at least passively, he was insisting he was not black. Regardless, there were at least 3 African Americans in the majors before Jackie Robinson. There was nearly a 4th, Charlie Grant, top second baseman from the early Negro Leagues, whom John McGraw had at spring training with the 1901 Baltimore Orioles. McGraw said he was a Native American called Tocohama. When people saw how well Tokohama played second base, they knew he was Charlie Grant. There was nearly a fourth in 1905. The newspaper The Boston Traveler reported that the team that would become the Braves was fed up with its lousy second baseman and was about to sign the top collegiate player in the country, Matty Matthews of Harvard, a black man. Didn't happen. Matthews instead signed with a minor league team in Vermont. There was nearly a fourth in 1916. The Oakland Oaks of the Pacific Coast League signed a top local amateur pitcher named Jimmy Claxton. They believed he was a Native American. He was also an African American. He was released 6 days later, but not before a local candy company rushed out a baseball card at him. Jimmy Claxton, William Clarence, Matty Matthews, Charlie Grant, Fleet, and Welday Walker, and William Edward White, buried by history, even during Black History Month. Why? We like our history, especially our social history, to have struggles and pitfalls and even danger, provided it has a happy ending. Can anybody say that Claxton or Matthews or Grant or the Walkers had happy endings? Or William White? William White was born in 1860, before the Civil War. Thus, since his mother was a slave, not by the laws of the Confederacy, but by the laws of our country, the man who actually became the first African American in professional team sports in this country, 68 years before Jackie Robinson. That was a man who was born a slave and spent his life in a segregated, racist society, passing as white, never acknowledging his place in history. And where's the happy ending in that?